For about 3 years now, I've been using Turbonomic as it moves from different versions. About 3 years. So we're on the C1 version um, of Turbonomic, and it's version 3.7. Right now, we're using it on-prem, and we also are using Turbonomic for just cloud reporting. So it's actually looking at things in the cloud or in Azure, and it's giving us reports of things that it could possibly do in Azure. But we're mainly using it on-prem for our VMware environment. So the use case for Turbonomic really began by us trying to uh, reduce cost. A lot of the cost and a lot of the CPU, RAM, and things of that nature. We kind of had an idea that we could possibly save some money, but it was like theoretical, something that we really couldn't put our hands on or touch. And Turbonomic was the solution that offered that really gave us that a tangible way of being able to see that and to see those changes be made in a efficient manner, and also the reporting behind it. So that's kind of how we're using it today, as well as the placement that it does in VMware, where it places machines where it best sees fit on different hosts. So it's been a very good solution for all of those things. The reporting has been very, very valuable um, because with a very large environment, it's very hard to get your hands on or get your arms wrapped around the environment, and Turbonomic does that work for you and really shows you where some of the cost savings can be done, and it also helps you with the reporting part. So me being able to see that this machine hasn't been used for a very long time, or me seeing that this machine is overused and it might need more RAM, more CPU, and also the cost savings that's so drastic in the cloud feature in Azure and in AWS, some of those other areas where I'm able to see like what we're using, what we're not using, and how we can change and better fit and to better fit what we have. Yes, Turbonomic does. So we've been able to separate different applications into groups in Turbonomic and kind of see how many resources it takes, and the need for resources and the need to maybe increase or decrease. So that grouping and those analytics enable me to be able to take it back to my application owners and say your application or your list of servers are doing this type of this type of work in our environment, and to really give me an opportunity to be able to show a cost to it. It gives me the opportunity to be able to show how many resources that we're using and how many it needs to use, so the increase that it might need to have. Some of it, yes, yes. So um, one thing it helps to do is it helps to make the application teams kind of see, um, kind of really be able to see the hardware and to see how it's being used um, versus what they've been told that it's going to use. So the reports really help with that. It really helps to show, hey, this application is really using this many resources or this least amount of resources. So it's been helpful for that. So it had that gap. Some of that gaps between um, an infrastructure person like myself and application where we both can kind of come to terms and see the raw data. It's very important because in the past, with with me just kind of showing that, hey, I don't think that this application is using that many resources, or I think it needs more resources. I now have concrete evidence, as well as reporting and some of the different analytics that I can show. So it kind of gives me the evidence that I would need, and it also shows me the reports and the analytics behind it, where I can actually see that Turbonomic has been able to really show my application owners proof of what they would need. No, I haven't really been able to see that portion of it. In terms of our downtime and meantime and resolution, uh, really, Turbonomic has been able to really show the reports, like I said, and really kind of give me an idea of things before they happen. And is that important? Well, definitely yes, because I would really like to see a machine that needs resources get resources before we have a problem to where we have contention and things of that nature. So it's been helpful in that regard. Yes, yes, greatly. Because Turbonomic is looking at my environment and is looking at the servers, and even looking at the different hosts and how they're handling traffic and the amount of machines that's on them. So it's able to kind of analyze before even I can analyze it, and kind of show me, hey, this server, this host needs resources, or it needs CPU, it needs RAM, or even in Azure, in the cloud, where I'm able to see that these resources are not being used to its full capacity, and maybe you could scale down some and then save cost. So yeah, it's been able to help with that. The way I would assess it is it's very helpful in that regard. Um, the reason why it's helpful is because if there's a machine that's overrunning CPU, I can run reports every week to kind of get an idea of machines that would need CPU, need RAM, or need additional resources, and those resources can be added by Turbonomic and not so much by me on a scheduled task, on a scheduled basis. So basis is something that's kind of known by the environment, and it's also would aid so that I personally don't have to do it. So it actually gives me a little bit of my life back, being able to help me to get resources added without me physically having to touch each and every resource myself. Yes, um, it has, uh, and actually the same way, just because it's able to see the resources and see what it needs and add them um, before a problem is actually caused. So it's following the trends, it's seeing the trends of what's happening, and it's able to add those resources or take away those resources. So take for example, um, we're discussing when we do certain disaster recovery tests. So over the years, Turbo will be able to see that around this time of year, these people ramp up these resources in this environment, and then it will add the resources. And then um, on another time of year, we'll realize these resources are not being used as much, and it takes those resources away. So it saves money, time, and it really helps to be able to let us know where we are. I think a great deal of time when I consider multiplying myself and people like me who would have to add resources to devices or take resources away. Um, so I think it's really valuable in terms of how much time and approximation. I would I would say hundreds or hundreds of hours that I would have to spend, and most of the time those hours would have to be after hours, which are more valuable to me because that's my personal time. Oh, definitely months. Um, Definitely, that's a month's time frame. I would consider the amount of resources that Turbonomic is adding and taking away, um, and the placement and all. If I had to do all of that myself, yeah, definitely, that would definitely be a monthly hundreds of hours that would be added. That Turbonomic is taking on the task where I would have to do that, or my counterparts or my co-workers would have to do that type of work. In terms of our SLAs, it helps us to meet those SLAs mainly because we're able to keep the servers going and to keep the servers in an environment, to keep them to where if we need to add resources, we can add them at a certain time. So it will keep our SLAs where they need to be. Whereas if we were to have downtime because we had to add resources or take resources away, and it was an emergency, then that will help us not meet our SLAs. So the way we use Turbonomic today is we're actually using it to monitor Azure, to monitor our machines in terms of, like I said, the resources that are out there and the cost. Whereas in some cases, in a lot of cases, it does a better job of giving us cost information than Azure itself does, because we're able to see cost per machine. We're able to see unattached volume and storage that is out there that we're paying costs for. So it gives us a great level of insight. So that's why how we're using it today. Um, so Turbonomic will give you the time to be able to do those things because some of the tasks um, that it does are things that I would not necessarily have to do. So, like I was just mentioning about monitoring and how it looks in Azure, how it looks at our on-prem environment, and it's able to see and show me those small detailed things that I myself might look over or might not see. So it's very helpful in that regard because I know that the resources are there where they need to be, and it's giving me an idea of what changes need to be made or what suggestions it's making. Even if I don't take them, I'm able to kind of get a good idea of um, some best practices through Turbonomic. One of the things that Turbonomic can do to help bring new resources to market is we're able to kind of see the resources or at least monitor the resources before they actually get out or before they get out to the general public of our environment. So we're able to monitor the resources, monitor how much usage we get out of them, and also monitor what they're currently doing before they get out to the general public of the environment. I would probably say the way it handles updates. That would probably be one of the areas I would think. I wish that the upgrades and updates were more easily accessible, and some of that is based on my environment and how my environment is set up. So because we are such a lockdown environment, I just wish that it would be better or easier to perform the updates. It was straightforward. I worked with some engineers, and they were really helpful and really kind of guided me along the path. So yeah, that was really good and really helpful. We actually deployed a proof of concept first. So I would say maybe over a couple of days. I We did a proof of concept first, and then took the proof of concept and then applied a license and then just put it in the environment like that. I would say a couple of days. Immediately, we saw it in the test environment. We set it up in a small test environment, and we started with just placement, and we could tell that the placement was being handled more efficiently than what VMware was doing. So placement alone, and then after we left the placement, we began to do the resources, where it looked at the resources and it would add resources. So we immediately began to see a change in the environment. Just somebody in the environment had used Turbonomic at a previous engagement or previous location, and so we decided just to give it a try. Yeah, we did look at some other options. We had issues with some of the other options, and they weren't able to do it as efficiently as Turbo was. And another coworker also had used Turbonomic, so we just tested it out in the environment and was able to see the cost savings, as well as the just the way that it was able to do some of the reporting, in other words. Of course, like, we were already using VMware for, and this was the cost, the cost of using some of the VMware products, how much it cost to do that. The other products, I really don't remember their names or any of that. I just remember Turbo was just kind of high on a couple of our lists, and we kind of reached out, as well as Cisco had a relationship with Turbo, and so they kind of brought them in, and we decided to test it out. It's been very stable, and no issues with it. We did have one issue with the update, but Turbo was really helpful, and just got on the ball, and we were able to get that problem resolved. But in terms of stability, it has been greatly stable. We haven't really scaled out with it. Actually, we realized we probably need to scale back in because of the savings that we were able to do because of Turbonomic. So it is scalable. Our environment is very large, and it was able to not just handle all of that, but get all of that done really well. So yeah, I think it's very scalable. It can handle out or even scaling your environment back in. It's about 8 people on my team, and our roles, we work in converged infrastructure, server engineering. So we handle VMware and just anything inside of the infrastructure. And that's kind of our roles. It is being used extensively. I think our usage will probably stay where it is, just because our environment is changing a little bit. So I think we'll probably just kind of hold steady with where we are. Oh, the technical support is excellent, and even being able to reach out to people, like if the problem gets too complex. I've had issues with one of the updates, and I've been able to even speak to somebody in development for help. So the technical support has been excellent. 9. They've been excellent. I think Turbonomic will be one, if not one of the best. Application awareness, just being able to see different applications and see their usage. So yeah, I think it's worked out well for that. I really wasn't involved too much in that portion in terms of the licensing. I would say it's definitely worth the investment. Um, I definitely would say it's worth the investment, and even initially, if it seems out of range, that the cost savings will make it up. It has made the application and performance better, mainly because we're able to give resources and take resources away based on um, what their what the need is. Yes, our expenses definitely um, have been in a better place based on the savings that we've been able to make, and those in the cloud and those on-prem. So Turbonomic has been very helpful in that regard because we've been able to see the savings um, real easily based on the reports in Turbonomic, and just seeing that their machines that are not being used to the capacity that we've set them out, and they could be curtailed to be worked a little bit more efficiently. I would definitely say do a proof of concept and try it. I think it's an excellent product. The reports really give you a really hands-on in your environment and get your arms kind of wrapped around your environment. I think that it's excellent product, and it has just it's paid for itself. I would say to work with somebody in technical support, or work with a TAM, and see if that's something that you could get Turbonomic to do saving to help you with those savings, and to test it out, do a proof of concept, because it really works out, and really you really see that Turbonomic hands down has been like one of the best products, or is the best product for that. 10. I see it does a really excellent job at the things I've mentioned before, like the reporting, the placement, um, the contention on resources, and increasing or decreasing those resources. So it does an excellent job with that. And I feel like overall the product just sells itself. It's been very helpful in the cloud and on premise. Um, so yeah, I would definitely rate it a 10.